Cool. Hi, I'm Jeff MacDonald. I do work at the Martin Agency, but I don't actually work in the way that you might think I work. So if you think advertising agency, you probably think, 30-second television spot or a radio ad, something like that. What I do is something a little bit different. I make robots. I create walls with conductive paint that have lights that turn on that tell stories. I build Oreos that turn into drum kits, and that's just kind of the weird stuff that I do for a living. And so how I got into that space was kind of a weird path. I was graduating from the VCU Brand Center in 2012, and there was this really great talk by this guy, Jad Abumrad, who does this radio podcast called Radiolab. Has anybody ever heard of Radiolab? A couple people? Sweet. If you haven't, check it out. And he was talking about this idea of leading people to moments of wonder. And that was a response that he gave when he said, well, what's your job? You do this podcast, you do these talks at colleges. What's your job title? And he said, leading people to moments of wonder. And that's kind of like, I put my foot in the ground. I was about to graduate. I said, that's what I'm going to do for a living. I'm going to lead people to moments of wonder. And so right now, what I'm doing to do that is I'm building these experiences for people in advertising. So that's something I did. I created a drum kit out of Oreos. We took Oreos and we put little wires inside of them and made it so that when you touch the different Oreos, they made different drum sounds happen. We just recently did something really cool for Chips Ahoy where we made Chips Ahoy bags into robots and scared people inside a grocery store, things like that. And so what I love about the idea of leading people to moments of wonder is it makes it so that your career doesn't have to be so linear. It doesn't have to be so well defined. I kind of look at it as an umbrella. So if you think of your career as this umbrella and then you just kind of draw lines underneath it, that's a really great way to think about it. So for me, leading people to moments of wonder right now is being a creative technologist at the Martin Agency, but it's also teaching at the VCU Brand Center, teaching other creative technologists to do what I do for a living. I love that because it makes it so that I don't have to think about, well, what if I don't want to be in advertising in 5 or 10 years? What if I want to do something else? As long as I stay true to that umbrella, I feel like I'm always doing what I want. And I know that every day I come to work, I'm going to be excited and happy for what I do. So that's kind of the first half of my talk. The second half of my talk is about this idea of curiosity. So when I start up a new semester at the VCU Brand Center for my students, I always talk to them about this idea of you have to be curious to do good at this job. The whole entire idea of being a creative technologist is basically being thrown into a space where there's no well-defined title or role. It's not like a copywriter where you can just show up and you have to write lines. There's a television script that needs to be sent out. Creative technologist is just whatever you want to make that is cool. If at the end of the day you made something that was cool, you did your job. And so we're always looking for people that tinkered, people that opened up VCRs, took them apart, figured out how they ran. And so when we try to define what that role looks like, we look at it in two different spaces. And I think this is applicable to anything that you do in life. The idea of creating surprise and delight in your work. So the idea that when you flip on a television, you see one of our ads that we make at the Martin Agency, we always try to leave this moment of surprise and delight. So when you watch it, it's like the surprise of a talking camel walking through an office, or maybe it's an Oreo commercial that has a really catchy song, and then the delight that comes with that. One of the things that we've been incorporating lately with our work, and one of the things that my group that I work with specifically at the Martin Agency does, is we then spark curiosity. So after you've watched that ad, maybe it's we want you to use a hashtag, or we want you to visit a website. That's the sparking curiosity. So it says, hey, there's a little extra something for those people that are curious. The next step I love about the sparking curiosity is this idea of rewarding curiosity. There's this street artist that takes all of his artwork and he actually spray paints it on the bottom of tables. Like not on the top where people can see it. He just puts it on the bottom of different tables. So that way he's asking people to go out into the world and look under tables. And so you see all these people around New York looking under tables trying to figure out what's underneath there. And they'll find his art and they'll post it online. And I love things like that. So I try to create those kinds of experiences. Just last year, I was able to work with a really talented group of artists here in Richmond on this project called The Light of Human Kindness. And we created a giant mural. And on it, we installed 1,000 LED lights. And what we did was we captured stories of kindness around the city of Richmond. And as we captured those stories, we lit a light for each story. And you were able to claim it on the website. We wanted to add an extra layer of interactivity. So we had this idea of using this really cool stuff called bare conductive paint. And we put it on these different little tiles. And then we hid them. We didn't really tell people what they did. But what people started realizing is that when they touched their hands together and and they created these daisy chains of people holding hands and touching the wall. We were able to create different light shows on the wall for them. And so you would have random people, random strangers getting together and being like, hey, excuse me, would you hold my hand for a second and touch this wall? And it'll do something really cool. And I really loved that because I loved watching all these just random strangers, people that normally never would have talked in the middle of the street to each other in Richmond, getting together to experience this one thing. So that's, for me, that kind of sums up what I like to do, is lead people to moments of wonder. So I hope that you keep that curiosity and you understand that just because you may go get a job as an accountant, or you may think that you want to be an artist and you're not quite sure what that job title is or what that defines you as, know that as long as you keep true to that umbrella concept of who you want to be, you'll never work a day in your life. You'll always be happy. Thanks so much.
Great.